The art of healthy confrontation and being comfortable with the uncomfortable. So there are many steps to this. I currently have 6. It will probably turn into a couple more as we go along because sometimes some things just come out in the conversation. So the first step is to separate yourself from your beliefs and ideas and your thoughts. It can sound kind of funny to think about trying to do this, but I want you to literally think about, this is my idea in my hand over here, or this ball or something like that. Hold a ball. If someone rejects or disagrees with that, it does not necessarily mean that they are putting you down or putting your self-worth down. And I think a lot of times we can identify with our beliefs and we say, well, if they don't agree with this belief of mine, then my self-worth goes down or my self-worth gets lower and I lose confidence because they've attacked something that I hold very close or hold very personally. So instead, recognizing, okay, this is my belief over here. So it's kind of like, say if somebody likes a certain kind of food, and so I like pineapples over blueberries or something, and instead they say, well, I like blueberries over pineapple. Oh, okay, well, that's just your food preference, no big deal. It doesn't mean that anything about you. It actually just means that that's their preference. That's what they like. But I think a lot of times we look at our beliefs and we identify those as different. So trying to visualize it or picture it, think of it as a separate entity to you. So you have these beliefs and thoughts. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is trying to attack you or hurt you. But really they can't when you hold your beliefs in that kind of way. So separating yourself from those beliefs, that's one of the first things that you can do. Recognize your ego. So our ego sometimes tries to get in the way of us recognizing when we're wrong or when we're struggling with something. So there have been times where, for instance, my husband and I have gotten into arguments and he'll say something. He'll be like, you do this because it's like this and this is what you think, and I'll just stop and be like, actually, he's right. And it kind of sucks. It kind of pisses you off. And sometimes we get angry in those times and we're like, we just want to lash back out and be like, no, that's not true. But actually it is. It is true. And so recognizing that sometimes our ego wants us to continue to fight and get all angry and huffy. But at the same time, we don't have to acknowledge that. We don't have to continue the fight once we've recognized, that is the root of the issue. It's not their problem. It was my problem. So recognizing your ego and being accepting of the fact that you're going to be wrong sometimes, allowing that to wash over you and to just be okay with that. Third thing kind of goes along with that, but instead accept that it's about them and not about you. So sometimes when we're in a conflict or a confrontation with somebody, they can say mean things to you for no apparent reason or be hurtful. And what we need to recognize though is that is a lot of times coming from something else other than you particularly. So for instance, there were times in the beginning of me starting my business where my husband had a lot of doubts and he had a lot of questions and a lot of issues, and he's very skeptical and he's very critical and he asks a lot of these prodding questions, or just maybe you should do this or maybe it should be like this, and there were times where he would say huffy things or say things under his breath, and I finally had to say, look, this is what I've chosen to do. I've decided to start this business, and this is what I'm doing. So, like it or not, this is what's happening. I'm sorry if you don't like it. I'm sorry if you don't appreciate it, but that's what I'm going to do. And so speaking up for ourselves with authority and being confident in our own views and decisions. So when you have that peace and calm about something and somebody tries to attack it or invalidate it, recognize that that's on them. That's not on you. That speaks volumes about them, but not you. For my husband, he's stressed. He's been dealing with a lot of these other issues. And he also has a lot of questions. He questions everything. The same with me. We both do. We question everything that we walk into. And so recognizing that that's just part of him, that's just part of how he's going to be, and that's part of how he does things. And so maybe it's the person that you're talking to as well. Maybe it's just the way that they do it. Maybe they like asking a lot of questions. Maybe they're not completely invalidating you or putting you down. And a lot of times when we take things personally, again, we're identifying with that belief. And we have that low self-worth where we're like, oh, like I do believe this, but kind of, I don't really want to tell a whole lot of people. But really advocating for ourselves and standing up for ourselves is a way that people come to respect us, and they come to see us as strong-willed and determined and persistent. And so I don't say that to toot my own horn, because I just talked about my husband's situation, but it is an example of somebody like me that really struggled with being shy and being quiet and, being timid about these things that I felt passionately about, and having my own doubts, but at the same time recognizing I need to push through this, and I'm going to push through this, and I need to put up some walls around me. And so the same goes for you, recognizing that even if it's just for a time, now my husband's completely accepting. He's like, all right, we're in this, like, let's do it. But even if it's just for a time, putting up those walls and saying, I know they don't understand right now, hopefully they will in the future, or this is just a part of their character. I need to just understand that that's how they are, accept that that's how they are, and kind of close the door to conversation for that topic for a time, because I'm still learning as well. So sometimes setting up those walls and boundaries with each other, knowing certain topics you can and can't talk to certain people about, you have the control to set the boundaries and close the doors and open the doors to those that you do want to allow into your closest circle. You don't have to trust everybody with everything that you're feeling or that you're thinking, or allow them to hurt you by saying things like that. You control that. And it's hard. I know, even as I say it, you may have a lot of questions about that, and that's fine if you want to dive into it with me later. But really, you do have the control to decide, this is the kind of person I want to let in. This is not the kind of person that I want to let in. It does not mean that you're two-faced. It doesn't mean that you're a different person with different people necessarily. It just means that you're protecting yourself. You're putting up boundaries to allow yourself to learn. You set up a baby gate to keep a baby in a certain area. In some ways, you're going to be a baby in certain areas. And there's also going to be certain people that, that's not something that they're going to understand. Like I said with my husband, maybe it's just for a time. But it also may not be necessarily your job or your position to try and teach them or train them away from it, and to put yourself in that hard heart place of letting them into that side of you. So I hope that made sense. Again, let me know if you have any questions on that. So I kind of took a rabbit trail, like I said I might, but the accepting that it's more about them and not necessarily about you. And then I guess, even another point would be having the self-confidence and the determination to put up those boundaries for yourself and walk into those boundaries confidently, that you have made this decision. I stand by my decisions. Yes, they're still here. They're still over here. They're not like all of me, so if you disagree, that's okay. But this is what I'm standing by. And then fourth point, or I guess kind of fifth, since we had two there, let it go. So hard, isn't it? I used to hate that phrase. I was like, what is it? What does let it go even mean? Like, what am I letting go? What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know what it means. Well, in this case, it means letting go of needing things to be your way. So a lot of times, again, when we're identifying with it, and our ego's getting in the way, we want things to be our way. We need them to be our way or the highway. And kind of a funny example of that was when we first got married, my husband and I lived with another couple, And he would always leave his clothes on the bathroom floor. And it drove me nuts because I was like, I want it cleaned up. I want them here. I want them here. And here is the bin. Why does he not put them in the bin in the bedroom? Instead, he leaves them in the bathroom. So confusing. And then I opened up to him and I said, why is it that you do that? And he said, well, I don't want the other couple to see me carrying the dirty laundry and see kind of my personal things. And so he wanted to leave them in the bathroom. So just by opening it up, sometimes letting it go also looks like that, where you can ask questions. Let go of your own ego and needing it to go your way, and recognize, ask questions, and then see how you can work together. So I had certain habits, he had certain habits when we first got married, and I'm sure you guys have experienced that in your own relationships, and then also with friends as well, right? We all have our own habits and our own styles. It doesn't mean any of them are right, like necessarily right or wrong. They're right for me. My habits are right for me. Your habits are right for you. And so just letting it go and saying, it doesn't need to be my way. And maybe I can understand a little bit more about where they're coming from, instead of assuming that it's my way or the highway kind of deal. Fifth is to be mindful of what's going on in your body. So this is an interesting one when we're talking about dealing with healthy confrontation, because when we find ourselves overly hungry, overly tired, very stressed, what's the last one? Overly heated. All of those things can agitate us. They can put us on edge and make it a very bad time to bring up certain topics. So if you've ever gotten in a fight, like on a road trip when you've been driving through the night and like it's really hot in the car, you can't move, you're cramped, you guys need to stop for food, you need to stop for gas in the bathroom, and you're just pissed. You're just mad at everything and at the other person, and they could say, I love you, and be really sweet, and you'd still be pissed off at them because you're in that state. So recognizing that there are going to be certain times where we just need to be mindful of what's going on in our body. If you're female, is it your time of the month? Recognizing and being aware of those kind of things. Being in tune with your body, being in tune with your state, hunger, nutrition, tired, stress, those kind of things. Is this a good time to do it? And also recognizing certain times of the day. So I know with my husband, if I want to talk to him about something big, do not bring it up when he comes home from work, because it is typically around 9 p.m. He's been at work all day. He's stressed. He's tired. If I want to have a conversation with him, it's in the morning before work. And he's chill, he's had a good night's sleep, he's relaxed. So think about that when it comes to relationships as well. If I want to have a healthy confrontation, if I want to have a healthy discussion with this person, where does it need to happen? When does it need to happen? What's going to put us in the best state to have this conversation? And even just living your life that way, that's why it's so important to have a healthy lifestyle, because if we don't have that, what's going to happen? It's just it escalates into our relationships, it escalates into our career, our lives, everything, our friendships, our relationships. So being mindful of just what's going on in your body, what your needs are, what your physical needs are, and allowing yourself to kind of give yourself some grace too during those times. So if you want to have a conversation with somebody saying, hey, I know you want to talk about that, but can I just grab a bite to eat real quick before we start talking about that? Even things like that can help to alleviate some of the stress and pressure. You're not running away from the situation, but you are recognizing that you need some food in your belly before you have this big talk, or it's going to be bad. And then the last one kind of combines a few different things, but literally finding a way to shake it off or laugh it off, or talk to somebody else about it, or even taking a moment to think about how you'll remind them about this situation later. For instance, with my husband asking about my business and those kind of things, now I can bring it up and say, I know, like at that time you were really worried about that, but look how we've grown in that situation. So even just kind of humoring yourself with thinking about those kind of things, maybe you chide them a little bit, be a little sarcastic or funny, you know, it can be whatever your relationship looks like with that person. Obviously not in like a mean, cruel kind of way, but just funny. So shaking it off, laughing it off. Literally, sometimes if I've had a really stressful day, I will turn on some music and just like you see my crazy dance videos. Sometimes those are on my most stressed days. Sometimes they're just on days where I'm really happy and, you know, kind of erupts out of that. But then there are other days where it's seriously just difficult. It's seriously just a bad day. And I'm like, I need to turn on some music. I need to move my body. I need to shake it off and just like let it out because somebody's gotten mad at me. Somebody's gotten this way. So whatever it is for you, literally shaking it out of your body and just allowing yourself to shrug and release all that tension and stress in your body does amazing wonders. So that was my 6/7 tips on the art of healthy confrontation and accepting the uncomfortable. So I hope they were helpful, and I would love to hear some feedback from you in the chat, in the comments below. So just let me know if which one of these was most helpful for you, some things that stood out. And of course, please book an appointment at your earliest convenience if this is especially something that you want to work through a little bit more. But that's kind of the general foundation for a lot of it. So again, I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon.